booties for black girl nerds.
Catalina with Black Girl Nerds. Lovely to be with you.
How are you?
Good. So it's Marvin. How did you get involved with Legion M? Like you are a big face of the company, and I just want to know how that started.
Well, I was working with a mentor of mine, legendary actor Bill Duke, and we were working on a project, and he would always tell me about the company, and then come to find out in the small world that we live in, and an even smaller industry, good friend of mine who I've known for quite some time, Chris Cooper, was also a part of the company. Chris reached out to me shortly after, and as well as Bill, and told me about the Defiant project, the Robert Smalls project, and I honestly didn't even know about it. So I was one of the ones that are many of us, no, well, not me, but many people who don't know about the project. I was one of the ones at one time, and we sat down, had a great meeting, and I was honored to be asked to come on board, and to bring this story to life. And it's been over 2 years now, and we've been pushing and carrying the torch for Robert Smalls as far as we can, and we've put together an amazing team of creatives, artists, which I'm standing in between two of them right now, and we thought after a long time that the graphic novel would be a perfect way to bring this real life superhero into the homes of everybody. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering, for you, what's the overall message when it comes to this graphic novel?
that's a good question. I think that the message is, freedom is in your own hands. The title itself, Defiant, I think is a tell-all of who you have to be, the spirit that you have to have, in order to accomplish the things that they say that you can accomplish. And I think Robert Smalls is the most exemplary man in that way. If you look at his life, if you look at the things that he's done that were not done before, whether it be starting public schools, starting a newspaper, running for Congress, freeing 9 families. I think he is the embodiment of what to be defiant is. So I think the one, if it was one, I would say the freedom that we want, and that's in all areas of life, is in our own hands. It's something that's internal, and we have to muster up the courage to be defiant enough to go for it and take it.
Love that. That was great. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
So let's talk art. Woo.
Woo.
Woo. So, Nik, you did the cover image, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Okay.
Incredible too.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it is incredible. So let's talk about, like, how did that image become the final choice? And then what are some Easter eggs or like key elements that you'd like to point out that kind of resonate with the rest of the story?
That image came about through, I guess, trial and error, working very closely with Rob, just trying to like get it right. As for Easter eggs, probably the eyes. I think the eyes was like the main focus, the main thing to try to get right. And I think those eyes, that look, that that glance he has, carries throughout time, and hopefully with each illustration you'll see like that same, focus in the eyes. Yeah, that's probably what I would say.
Eyes are the windows to the soul, right? It's amazing. So well done.
I can't say anything as profound as what he said.
Right.
So I'm like,
Hey,
even close to what
he even threw the title in there. I'm like, oh, he's good.
Now did you see why I was glad when Marvin?
I was like, oh, well, there's nothing topping that.
That's fair. No, all good. That was a great answer. Thank you so much. Eyes, I got it. Coming down here. Are you ready, Ray?
I'm gonna be ready.
Okay. So, when it comes to your preference, or what is your preference for comic or graphic novels versus storyboarding, and what are the challenges you find, like going from one to the other?
Good question. I've done both. Well, first, my love for them is equal. I'm a big anime manga nerd, so I'm like all into storytelling and cinematic, and I try to bring that when I do comics. Uh, Comics was my first love, though, and I've been working in comics for the last 20 years. I even published stuff when I was 19 years old. So, but when I dabbled in animation, I really understood the language of storyboarding and film, because that's really what it is. Um, it just brought my comic skills to a whole different level. So I don't have a preference. I love them both equally, like children.
Love that. I do have a follow up for you. For Defiant, what did you or what inspiration did you pull from? Like, where did you draw from?
Okay, so this is a great question. We talk about this a lot. So when I got pulled in with Legion M and Rob, I watched the video that they sent me that had Marvin's quote in it. It's like, this is a superhero story. And I was like, it is. And I grew up in Compton, and I only heard in schools this one time, but my kids didn't hear anything about Robert Smalls. And when I heard it, it was like a blurb, because my teacher didn't think that we were going to hear it. She was right. We didn't hear anything about that. And when the story came to me, I was like, oh man, how this story is getting told, this is really, really cool. And then being pulled in, I got to know so much more about it. But with all of that, I'm like, okay, well, bringing this in when you do the autobiographical or historical things in comics, they look kind of boring. They're beautifully executed. The craftsmanship is great, but let's get this exciting. Let's make it bombastic. And when I think about the story of Robert Smalls, I think if Peter Parker's thing is, with great power comes great responsibility, Robert Smalls is, if not me, then who? So.
That's great.
So he did better than me.
That was great. You were hiding all that. You should have went first, man. No, that was great. Thank you. I appreciate all three of you talking with us today. Thank you. Lovely to be with you guys today for this awesome project. So, Chris, I'm wondering, since this is a Legion M project, how does the creative input differ from a giant publisher like Marvel or even Z2?
Well, it's interesting. Legion M is very fan focused, very fan based. So right from the jump, we're involving them, and this whole project is for them much more than a lot of other companies. So it's great to be so tied and so connected just from the jump. And we're sharing stuff behind the scenes. We're giving them heads up of this design, that type of thing. So very exciting times here at Legion M. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. And then for Rob,
hello.
So you have no shortage of amazing writing credits. I'm a fan.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So I'm wondering, what are some of the challenges that you face writing a graphic novel that differs from writing like a movie or TV show?
Oh yeah. Well, fortunately, I did stand up when I was a kid. I've done half hours, a lot of half-hour TV. I did an hour. I worked on Studio 60 with Aaron Sorkin, and then I even wrote commercials, whatever, and I've written short stories. So for me, it was, okay, you're telling the story. You just need to find out the language that it's told in. Unfortunately, Chris Robinson was like, okay, no, that's not the way. You have to, pages have to be have to be shorter. They, whatever, have to give the artist some room. There's more page discipline with a graphic novel than there is with, a screenplay. You have to cut down the dialogue. You can have somebody talk, for a while in a movie, and it'll, Sam Jackson is going to come out like poetry. On a comic book, it's just going to look like a big page, big block that's going to block all the art. So you don't want that. You want to kind of cut everything down. And then I love comic books, so it's fun to just envision what my work will look like on a page and then write to that. So much more visual and stimulating and stuff like that. So that's been a little journey for me, but it's been a ton of fun.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And of course, next we have, Michael. Thank you so much. Woo! Descendant of Mr. Robert. So I'm wondering, your great-great-grandfather, significant part of African American history. Before Legion M, what were some of the ways you tried to get your family's story to the masses?
Oh
Boy, you know, the first time that I talked publicly about Robert Smalls was in, I think, April of 1976. So a long time ago. And I've been doing it since. I've been giving talks. I did a TED talk. I've been writing and doing various things. And then, you know, over the years, various projects would come up. You know, in Charleston right now, for example, there is a play that the Gilliard Auditorium is working on. So there have been a variety of different ways, but basically just out telling the story. And I got to tell you, I have been just blown away by the team that Legion M pulled together, by the project, by the stature of what they're doing, and it's going to be a fantastic effort.
I do have a follow-up question, just like my curious mind is going. Growing up, how did stories about your great-great-grandfather even get told or like even come up?
Yeah.
I'm the grandson of Superman.
Yeah.
How did that?
I mean, it just was a part of like the landscape of how I grew up. You know, I grew up, my grandmother is Robert Small's granddaughter. And so she and her siblings would talk all the time about, you know, we didn't so much hear about, you know, captain or congressman. We heard about grandpa, you know, the man. And so it just has always been there. I've read and I've, you know, done research to sort of fill in the gaps. But, you know, there is oral history that is just passed down. And so it's always kind of been there.
That's amazing. Oral history is so important, especially when it comes to family.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Especially
all.
now.
Yeah,
when,
right?
you know, when they're saying, oh, don't tell these stories. You know, stop telling those stories. Oh, look away. You know, you have to tell them, and you have to tell them boldly. And so that's why, you know, graphic novel is such a great idea. You know, talk to the kids where they are. Mm-hmm. And, you know, hopefully we have something exciting and fun, you know, a different type of storytelling. And specifically for Black Girl Nerds, it's like Black men are telling a story about a Black man.
Yeah.
You know, we're reaching back in history and funneling it through and telling the story that we want our kids to hear.
Yeah.
But I gotta add, yes, it's about a Black man, but he wouldn't have been the Black man that he grew up to be without the Black women who were surrounding him,
Yes.
without his mother, without his wife, maybe even without his daughter, my great-grandmother Elizabeth, who they all, I think, shaped him, helped to fortify his aspirations and send him on his way.
Amazing. Great. Anything to add or anything you'd like to say about the project?
I'm just so happy that we're bringing this to light finally and getting to tell it this big bombastic, you know, the comic book page is infinite, you know, and bringing this to the page is special, and we're going to knock it out of the park. So, you know, get on board now, basically.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Find our Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And, you know, and get on it. This is a story you want to help tell.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds. Better shake your booties for Black Girl Nerds.